Hey, welcome to Square Body Stuff. I'm Chad. Still working on Squeaky, getting him ready for No Name Nationals. Alright, my last video was just kind of catching up, so I'll skip any of the ketchup or mustard. I don't know. That's a horrible dad joke. Anyways, I told you in the last video, if you watched it, and if you didn't watch it, go back and watch it. But I told in the last video that we are going to go ahead and reveal what engine we're putting in old Squeaky, because when Stumpy was involved in it, he wanted to keep it a big secret and all that stuff, and it was just kind of a pain for me because I don't have a very big shop, and trying to do any video, I've got engine parts scattered all over the shop right now, and yeah, most people probably guessed anyways what was going on. So let me show you real quick where it came from, and then I'll show you the engine. Now we got to go out to the back lot to the graveyard, scrap yard, parts truck yard, and I'll show you what we got, or where we got the motor. So you might recognize it. It's been on the channel a couple times, but didn't really get a whole lot of action, and right now it's not going to get any action because we stole the engine out of it. So here it is. My old rock crawler, Big Nasty. Decided to go ahead and pull the engine out of him and use it for Squeaky. Had to put some smaller tires on just to get him in the shop and work around it. Pulled the front clip off. It was pretty well mangled up anyway, so and it makes it easier to work on it, get the engine out. But if anybody remembers what engine was in that truck, or that Blazer, I had a Gen 5 crate 454. I bought it used with low miles probably about 7 years ago, stuck it in that Blazer. Had a lot of fun with it. It was a good solid engine, all stock. Even, well, it was a throttle body engine to begin with, but I put an old style cast iron factory manifold on it and a little 600 Holly, and just had some fun with it. Had plenty of power for that truck. So since plan B, or since plan A, the 339 stroker wasn't going to make it, I figured I'd use that engine. Yeah, I kind of hated dismantling the truck or the Blazer just to get the engine out of it, but hopefully that'll spark more interest in for me to do some work on the Blazer, old Big Nasty, because I wanted to redo the front end anyways. Put new sheet metal on them. Well, not new used, but anyways, it was beat up pretty bad. So I'll show you this engine we got, kind of tell you what we got going on with it. There it is. So this, like I said, this is a Gen 5 crate engine. Now, it's got some Gen 6 type stuff going on with it. And so it's kind of like a, I don't know, kind of a hybrid, I guess. It's kind of weird because it has some stuff like the Gen 6 and stuff like the Gen 5. It does have the fuel pump boss. I'm going to run a mechanical fuel pump. But it's also got provisions for a roller cam, roller lifters. It had a hydraulic flat tap in it. It didn't have the roller cam. It'd been nice if it did. That way it had the lifters already, and I could have just found a roller cam. But I didn't. And the heads that were on it, which are over there, that's the mock-up engine that came out of Squeaky that we just had it set in there. But these heads, they're peanut port. I don't remember the numbers on them. I don't feel like moving around to find the numbers. But the reason I took those off is not because they're peanut ports. Peanut ports would have been fine for what we're doing. I did put a different cam in it. It's not very big. I got the specs here. It's a Summit grind. I really like the Summit cams. It's what I was running in the that little 305. It's a Summit 1301 for big block Chevy. 218, 228 at 50 on the durations, and well, the lift should be 502, 502 for some reason. Anyways, so it's kind of a tiny cam. I guess you can call it an RV cam, whatever. But the reason I had that cam, it's just been sitting on the shelf for probably 3 years. And I had it for Buddy, my crew cab. I was going to put in that 468. It's a little bit bigger than what's in there. But I just never got around to it. So it's been sitting on the shelf for all this time. Had a timing set, had some valve springs to go with it, gasket set. So I had a lot of all this stuff just laying around. The only thing I didn't have for this engine to be able to go in squeaky was a flywheel, standard flywheel, because the rock crawler was automatic. And the Gen 5 and Gen 6 are balanced different because they're a one-piece rear main seal. So they're balanced different than the Mark IV, the old school 454s. So I had to get a different flywheel. I didn't have one. I had several for 454s or the Mark IVs, but I didn't have any for the Gen 5, Gen 6. So I had to order a new flywheel, which wasn't real bad, and the fuel pump. But other than that, I had everything laying around. The heads that's going on here. Oh, I need to get back to why I changed those heads. Yeah, I got sidetracked on the camshaft and then went from there. So, welcome to my world. Okay, the reason I took the peanut port heads off is not because the peanut ports. They would have been peanut port heads, all stock. Well, they'll support 500 horsepower, and that's probably where we're going to be, even with the nitrous. So maybe a little bit more. I don't know. But the reason I had to change the heads is because those heads are similar to the Vortec heads or the Gen 6 heads, but they're not the Vortec heads, but they got the non-adjustable rockers. The lifters I'm using in this engine are some anti-pump up race lifters, so you have to adjust those with just a little bit of lash. I usually run them at like 5-6 thousandths lash, just a little bit. You can't have them zero lash like a regular hydraulic lifter. I learned my lesson doing that the first time I ran them, and though I had it in a small block, and it wouldn't hardly rev past 5,000 RPM. It just float the valves. So anyways, that's why I needed the adjustable rockers. So I had a set of the 781s. They were just sitting down here on a shelf. Now I did have some aluminum. I think they're just some cheap Pro Comps that I got real cheap. So yeah, they're just Pro Comps, but they're probably equivalent to these 781s as far as flow and stuff. They do have the bigger valves than the 781s, but other than that, they're probably comparable as far as flow. They're just a lot lighter. But the reason I didn't want to use those is because I wanted this 454 to be to have the similar idea of the 305 we had in him to begin with. It was stock to begin with. And I've done your normal everyday upgrades, stuff that about everybody can afford. Cam, intake, headers. That's all we're really doing to this engine, other than a timing chain. But so that's why I chose to go with the old cast iron 781 heads. They're really good flowing heads from the factory, and I did tickle the ports just a little bit. Let me see if I can flop this thing over and see if you can. I don't know if you can see really much what's going on there. Let me grab a flashlight and see what. Where is it? I've got a complete disaster of a mess in this shop. I can't find nothing. Here's a light. But anyways, mainly just some pocket porting. Open up the pockets a little bit on the intake and exhaust. I didn't do anything on the intake runners Didn't try to port match them or anything like that, or gasket match them, because the intake I'm using is just, for some reason, the ports are a little bit weird. It is a okay intake. I'll show it to you real quick. I'm just gonna have a field trip around the shop, so I got everything spread out. But here's what I've got. It's an old Torker 2.0. It looks all shiny and new, but it's not. I don't even actually remember how I come up with this. I got it from somebody. They got it in a package deal with something, and they didn't want it, so they just gave it to me, so it's free. But these ports are odd shaped. The outboard runners are smaller, and I think the philosophy behind that is because those runners are a lot longer, and they wanted to possibly have a higher velocity on those, so it doesn't. I think that's the logic behind that. But anyways, I've got this intake. It was just sitting there. So with the theme of regular bolt-ons, a guy could find an intake like that, or actually the best one to use would be like a Performer RPM air gap. I do have one, a cheap Chinese copy of it, a Speedmaster brand, hanging. That is brand new. I bought it when I bought that cam that I was going to put on Buddy, but I never have put it on there. But the reason I didn't use that air gap intake is because of the nitrous. Nitrous doesn't really like dual planes. That Torker 2 is a single plane, so, and I'm gonna run that 2-inch spacer for a little more plenum volume. It usually helps mid-range a little bit with that. So anyhow, that's what we got going on. I'm in the middle of putting this other head together. I've got the one already done and bolted on. Then it's lifters, push rods, and all the other goodies. Hopefully you get this thing on the run stand. Well, it's already on the stand, but hook the run stand up to it, start it up on the stand in the next day or two. This is Wednesday for me. This video come out on Thursday. When this video comes out on Thursday, I'll be down to 6 days left to get this truck ready to go. I thought about just throwing this engine in the frame, leaving the front clip off, starting it up in the frame. But I figure my luck, I would have an issue and have to pull it right back out. So I think that's why I built my run stand. It's real easy. I could just roll it right up to the engine stand that the engine's on. I don't have to swap anything out. Hook everything up real quick, start it up, break the cam in, make sure I don't have any major oil leaks or any problems. And if I do have any problems, all I gotta do is unhook the run stand, drain the water, and it's already on the stand, so I don't have to pull it back out of the truck. So it's kind of one way or the other. I don't know. It's a tough call, but that's the plans. That's what I've got going on. So I don't know if anybody's surprised that I used a big block, because yeah, I've been playing with this small block. We got the 339 build going on. That's still going in this truck. I went over that in the last video, but 339 is still going to be built. Everything's down at the machine shop right now, getting machined. They're just way behind, so we had to go to this 454. So while I've got this engine in the truck, I could drive it around, have some fun while I'm building the 339. I could maybe get some suspension sorted out, because I've changed the rear end, done some different stuff with the springs on the back. I might want to lower the front a little bit, I don't know. So, you know, this will give me an opportunity to do some stuff with the truck and actually drive the truck while I'm building the 339 and have some fun with it. And the other thing is, this goes along with my original plans with this truck. Once I had plans for the truck, my original idea was do everything I did to that 305 until it either blew up or just got wore out, or we were just done with it. And our next step was going to be a 454, because I have a few of them laying around. I love big blocks. I'm a big block guy. Eventually everything I have is going to be big block. except for the 339. And eventually, once we get done with it, if it blows up or something happens with that 339, or we just get tired of it, or maybe find another project that'd be better suited for, then I'm gonna build a pretty nasty 454. Well, it'll be a big block, it won't be 454, but build a pretty nasty big block to put in old Squeaky and really make him fast. But we're keeping the 4-speed. Don't get any bright ideas. We're not going automatic with it. I'm keeping the 4-speed. I'm gonna try to be the fastest granny low 4-speed truck on YouTube or in the world. So, but yeah, big blocks. I've got big blocks laying around. I've got a 74 LT4 or LS4, not LT, LS4. That's the predecessor or successor. Well, that came after the LS5. That's the smog version, small cam, smog heads. Got 049 heads, which are similar to these 781s. I think they had like 280 some horsepower. I don't remember. Don't quote me on the specs, but I've got that one. I've got I think two or three more blocks out in the barn. I've got a Vortec out of a 98, I think it is. Big block. It's at another guy's house. I never have went and picked it up. So I've got plenty of big blocks, and I've got plenty of big block parts. I've got a box full of H-beam and I-beam rods. I've got a factory forged steel crank underneath the bench, and that gray tub there underneath them batteries, it's full of factory 454 parts. So yeah, I've got a lot of big block stuff, and I like the big blocks, but we're having fun with this 339, so we're just going to stick with it for now. All right, well, I guess that's probably enough rambling. Hopefully you guys are cool with the idea of putting a big block in Squeaky. It's not going to be super radical. I'm going to probably guess maybe in the neighborhood of 375 to 400 horse. I don't know. It's hard to say. The cam is kind of small. I've thought about buying a bigger cam, another Summit brand, because they're cheap. But the bigger ones that I could use without doing any machine work to the heads, they were out of stock. So, and I had this one. I really didn't want to spend a bunch of extra money on this motor because I need the extra money for the 339 to finish it up. So anyhow, that's where we're at. I think it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a whole different ball game because I'll have a big block and 488 gears and a bunch of torque. So it's gonna be quick. It's as long as I can get traction. That's gonna be my biggest deal now, is getting traction, because I didn't have to worry about that too much with the 305. Even with the nitrous, it didn't have enough torque really to break traction with the slicks on and a good sticky track. So, all right, well, I'm gonna get busy on this thing. I need to get this other head on there tonight. I'm running on like 3 hours of sleep in the last 24, 36 hours. I'm on vacation now, so I don't have to work until after No Name Nationals, so that's good. I don't have to worry about that. I could devote all my time to this, eating and sleeping. So yeah, that's where we're at. Hope you guys enjoy it. Till next time, y'all, keep your square bodies rolling, and we'll catch you later.